Welcome to Creature Creator, the show where I help you recreate your favorite stories and characters at your gaming tables. Today, after several months of receiving your requests and suggestions, we are heading back to the Five Nights at Freddy's series to tackle FNAF 4 and its collection of nightmare animatronics. Despite this entry's gameplay being essentially a retread of the prior 3 installments, its shift in setting offers us a treasure trove of fresh lore, scenarios, and enemies, and I'll be showing how you can use it all to take your game design to the next level. Here on Creature Creator. Hey, hello there! I'm Flintworth, and I'm not gonna lie, FNAF 4 scares the shit out of me. Ah! 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 No! No! Go! 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 Ah! 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 Oh my god! Oh. I get to cover it! Oh god! Ooh. When I was a kid, for years, I used to get nightmares on a daily basis. It was so bad that I was probably around 8 or 9 when I was finally able to control my dreams. And I was roughly another 4 years after that before I was even able to fall asleep without a light on. Nowadays, I'm an unabashed horror fan who cannot simply get enough of being scared. But there's just something about the 4th game that takes me back to a dark place, where every noise set me on edge, where I used to strain to see if there was something hiding in my closet, where I couldn't help but wonder if something was just waiting for me to close my eyes for a few seconds to... Obviously, recreating those kind of childhood fears was exactly what Scott Cawthon intended when he created FNAF 4 back in 2015. Because by that point, all the 3 past games had been set in some form of security office. It was about time for a change in scenery, a change in pace. He needed to shake things up a little. And you know what? So do we. Thus far in my other FNAF videos, I've shown how you can look at Cawthon's creations to inspire your own animatronic monsters, combat encounters, and even go and concoct your own big bad to wrap a whole campaign around. However, those are just the basics though. I've yet to show you how you can use the Fazbear Menagerie to go and run all kinds of scenarios that will make your campaign be more than just a series of combat encounters. Or, better yet, awaken the long-forgotten fears of your players' youths. Yeah, that's right. If I have to relive my childhood trauma, so do they. Before I go breaking down those possible events I have in mind though, let's quickly take a look at the latest monstrosities to join our ever-growing collection of robots. In Five Nights at Freddy's 4, we are introduced to the Nightmare Animatronics, who are without question the most creepy-ass looking versions of the bots yet. They got bigger claws, sharper teeth, and are more malicious than your average politician. The catch is, though, is that they're all the figment of a little kid's imagination, which doesn't really make it convenient for them to do harm in the real world. However, that doesn't mean they're any less of a threat. The likes of villains like Freddy Krueger and Pennywise have proven 10 times over the potential of making the most of someone's overactive imagination. Not to mention, if we really want to be sticklers here about lore, the entire Nightmare game were given flesh and made new in the 7th game of the FNAF series, Ultimate Custom Night. So I saw no reason to not go ahead and make nightmare versions of my past animatronic stat blocks for those looking to take their bot design to the next level. That all said though, the real lesson of FNAF 4 that I want to focus in on here is not the monsters we get to play with, but rather the fun new scenarios that they come with, which frankly you don't even need the nightmare bots to even run. Here, let me show what I mean. In the 4th game, we find ourselves trying to survive inside a kid's bedroom. Gone are the beloved steel-powered doors, the useful security cameras, and handy items that we could use to throw off our enemies. Like the mask of FNAF 2 or the sound effects of FNAF 3. Forcing players to rely on nothing else but a simple flashlight and their own powers of observation. The thing is, if you've been following my FNAF guides up to this point, you should know that stripping players of their tools and abilities isn't exactly anything new. Now, the true brilliance FNAF 4's design is its location. All of our encounters we have built up to this point have centered around directing our players to derelict restaurants or abandoned factories. It has always been on their enemy's turf on your players' terms. Sure, they may have done so for some reward we promised them, but it was always our players inciting our encounters, eased by the knowledge that once they've survived the encounter, they can always go back home to rest up in safety. But with FNAF 4, our expectations are inverted as we are shown that this is simply not true anymore. I mean, just imagine your players coming home after a long day of investigating. They might have a few moments of roleplay trying to relax, prep up for the next stay, or even go and just shoot the breeze with their friends. They might even try to go and squeeze in a few moments of self-discovery or reflection to really cap off what they've learned thus far. And just as they all lie down to rest and turn off the lights, you ask for them to roll perception to see how many pick up that a couple of uninvited guests have decided to let themselves in, leaving your players only mere seconds to get ready for their attack. A classic ambush scenario like this can open up so many avenues for us. For one, it sets up the standard that nowhere is safe anymore, which it can be a deliciously terrifying curveball to throw at your more cautious players. 2, it offers a refreshing new setting to pit your players against your bots. But more importantly, 3, it allows us to eloquently demonstrate that our monsters are not reactive creatures. Oh, no. They are more than capable of taking action without a player having to get involved first. What I also love, narratively, Five Nights 4 can be really inspiring if you're looking for a way to help your players experience moments in the past. That's right, I'm talking about recreating our own flashback scenarios. Wavy transitions not included. But seriously though, the worst thing any storyteller can do is to dump too much exposition on their audience. You and your friends are here to play a game after all, so use that to your advantage. Often in my games, whenever I want to go and reveal something in the past, I try to find some clever way for my players to go and experience it for themselves. And what's fun is that you can use all kinds of narrative tropes to make it happen. Magic, drugs, a quick blow to the head, and yes, even a collective dream. I mean, when you consider the main adversaries of your games are a collection of haunted robotic animals, it shouldn't be too far-fetched for your players that they are suddenly experiencing the past. To be fair though, if you're looking for a more eloquent approach, a flashback encounter could be a very thrilling way to start your overall game with. Think about it. There would be nothing more classic to a horror story than getting to play out the fate of some doomed soul for the main narrative. Especially if you intend for their disappearance be the adventure hook that draws in your group's main characters. Out of all the encounters we could glean from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, I think my personal favorite would be the one that I call a death scenario. And frankly, it's the type of encounter that would be both the best way to honor our source material, but it would be the kind of scenario you would never hope to have to run. You see, a death scenario is what I call the scene after your players experience a TPK, or a total party kill, where whether by their own folly or by something outside their control, the entire party dies. In those cases, dungeon masters are left with the rough task of narrating what comes next, whether that be setting up how the party wakes up in a med ward, or establishing the new heroes to come and replace the ones that are now gone, or worse yet, straight up narrating the very end of the game. Simply put, it's very important for a DM to have a plan in mind for any potential death scenarios. And as luck would have it, the entire plot of FNAF 4 happens to be just that. The whole game, with all of its nightmare animatronics, its spooky bedroom, and eerie noises in the dark, all take place within the mind of one single kid on his deathbed, who was mortally wounded by a Fredbear animatronic after he was stuffed into its mouth by his brother for a prank. That poor kid's fate could very possibly happen to one or more of your players, where in their final moments they'd be stuck in a hell of their own making, trying to hide from the very monsters that hurt them in life. But where our influence tells the story of someone's end, I see the potential to give our players one last chance to fight for their lives, where if they ever were to fall, they would suddenly find themselves awoken to a gauntlet of horrors inspired by FNAF 4. And as they struggle through this never-ending hell, no matter if they succeed or fail, they will find themselves seemingly at the start of the night once again, with a fresh group of nightmares waiting to tear them apart. All the while, we will be keeping track of their progress, waiting for the pivotal moment to declare their final fates. If it isn't clear yet, I'm suggesting you use this gauntlet as a replacement to the death saving throws you would see in D&D, and that you are determining whether their characters cling to life or they succumb to their wounds. So for instance, when a player manages to survive 3 nights in your gauntlet, they get to wake up and live to fight another day. But if they fail too many times though, well, I'll leave it to your own imagination to determine that. What's more important is taking what could have been an abrupt end in your story and turning it into an encounter, a moment that builds up the atmosphere and theme of your game. In my playbook, getting the chance to experience something will always beat out following basic game mechanics. As I always say, cater to what works best at your gaming tables. Some players may not like to have their fates determined by a drawn-out encounter. That's fine. What matters more is that you always make the most of what inspires you when running your games, even if that means bringing to life the nightmares of your past. Next time on Creature Creator. Dear viewers, it has been my deepest pleasure these past few months to help you bring the likes of so many wonderful creatures to your worlds. And I am happy to say that we have only just begun to explore what your players can experience. There are still plenty of mysterious realms, stoic demons, and wondrous puzzles to inspire our games with. Oh, dear viewer, I have such sights to show you. Hey, thanks for watching today. As always, please don't hesitate to send in requests or suggestions of what you'd like to see in the next Creature Creator. I adore knowing what to put up for you guys next. If you haven't already, consider liking and subscribing. And if you don't, no worries. You're beautiful. I love you anyway. Take care. See you next time.